fly. I think the pattern that they got, it's more or less maybe a little bit based on something of this pattern, but it's more like a filer flume dragon that they've got there instead of a Beck's bugger. She designed the pattern just because I think she just wanted a little bit more than your stock standard woolly bugger. When I first noticed the pattern, it came on the scene a few years back. Basically, what she did is she stuck on the dumbbell eyes. You know, they don't fish still waters like we do. They fish rivers. So for them, a streamer like a bugger, that's basically what they're going to swing in a river. So that's why the heavy eyes were on the front. And then she just made the collar of the fly much denser. So you'll have a hackle behind on like a normal woolly bugger, and then she added the extra hackle collar in behind the eyes to push more water. And then it obviously evolved so to the point where it is now. So I've seen a few variations of it, but this is the latest one that I've seen that they tie. The one that she's tying at the moment is much more dense than a normal bugger. So it doesn't have a body with a palmed hackle. It's got a hackle body, and they fish it like obviously, like I said, they fish it mostly in rivers. That's why the reason for the big dumbbell eyes. And when Gavin asked me to do something for trout, normally I'm the kind of guy who does tiny little things. I'm into imitative fly tying, and I fish for trout mostly winter, so the patterns never goes past size 16. So you know, I don't really fish big patterns, but they're very effective in winter. And I mean, I fished the corporate challenge last year with some other guys, and that's what we fished down there. If you got to search water and big water in winter, you normally fish deeper water, you know, because the fish tend to be deeper. They come into the shallows maybe morning, or they'll be there for the spawn. But if you're not going to looking for fish patrolling banks or spawning off the bank, and if there's no hatch going, then your fish are going to be deeper. And this is just a general pattern. It's not supposed to imitate anything. I like to know what I imitate when I'm fishing, but you know, sometimes we just overcomplicate the hell out of stuff, which is completely unnecessary. So you can basically say this is just another option instead of fishing a Mrs. Simpson or a woolly bugger for that matter. The nice thing about this pattern is if you're going to be fishing it, it's a big pattern, which is what you sometimes want, especially also in winter when the fish are a bit more aggressive or when you're searching for fish, and it pushes a lot of water. And that's kind of important in the fact that that's different from woolly buggers, because woolly buggers are not that dense. So this fish pushes much more water, so it leaves an acoustic footprint, which helps fish locate it. And the other thing about flies that push a lot of water, if you retrieve your flies to the water, I noticed a few years ago, putting a what was it called, an aggravator with a chenille collar through the water. The difference between something that's got, like, for instance, a marabou head or a wool head or thick collared hackle up the front is that they will create, when you pull that pattern through the water, you create a turbulence. And so the marabou tail that's behind that has a dance of its own. You cannot imitate it with the marabou tail will follow maybe the pattern if it's a slim pattern, or it'll if you've got rod tip movements or line movements, the marabou tail might bounce a little bit, but it never wobbles by itself like this. So if you pull a pattern like this, for instance, through the water, the marabou tail will do this automatically. You can't imitate. That it does because of the fact that you've got a denser hackle, or you've got a collar or a chenille body in front. So that is, I think it makes patterns quite effective. I used to fish bass lakes. The water's crystal clear. I used to call it my lab. I used to see how fish react to this different kind of stuff. And so I used to test it there. And the marabou tails that flicker like that, because those basses, they're very clever. You know, they've seen a lot of flies and see you, and so they won't really commit and stuff. So the ones that got like a little bit wobble in the tail like that, independent wobble, are much more attractive to them, and they're much more committed to that than just a normal pattern that just comes along. They'll come at it and then they'll turn away. So let's get tying. It's a quick pattern, so there's nothing too complicated about it. Oops. Where did I put the dumbbell eyes? Okay, so we're going to start with the dumbbell eyes. She puts the eyes in. I mean, these are, you obviously put it to weight. In still water, if you don't want weighted eyes, you can just fish plastic eyes. It's just to give a. Say it again.
It's going to turn around.
Turn what upside down?
No, the fly is going to swim.
No. Yeah. If your dumbbell eyes are quite heavy. The fly will swim upside down. And I think the way they tie it, because they do put the dumbbell eyes a little bit further back, is they want their pattern to swim upside down because they swim it in a river. So there they obviously want the thing to be upside down and not hook on the bottom. But this dumbbell eyes, for instance, that we're going to tie tonight, just going to show you the size compared to the hook. They quite the hook shank's quite long. A hook APR is quite heavy, so it won't. I don't think this will be able to turn a hook upside down easily. Unlikely.
Which hook are you using?
You can use the hook that you use. This is quite extra long. This is a 3x, 4x. How much? 3x. Size 8, 10. 8. Yeah, size 8, 3x. So a 2x or a 3x streamer hook is what they use for the pattern. Okay, so we're quickly going to just put our scissors here. When you put the eyes in, normally if you tie woolly buggers and that type of thing, I'm going to put my eyes in over here. There. Oops. I can show you something like that. So that's more or less where I put my eyes with the standard one. With this one, we're going to move it a little bit further back. So don't give yourself a bit more space. Oops, I get this off here. Tangled myself here. There we go. No, that was a demo. That wasn't a mistake. It's a mistake on purpose. So yeah, so that's about the distance. I'm going to leave quite a substantial there. Where my thread stops now, that's about where I'm going to put my eyes in. Okay. So cross your eyes over with figure of eights, and then just to and if it's not in the right position when you just figure of eight like this, you can actually push your dumbbell eyes to the position that you want. Like over there about, yeah. And then to keep it in that position, then you go just below them. And then put your wraps around the hook shank just to keep them on one position, and then you bind them. When you go underneath your dumbbell eyes, you pull the thread tight so the eyes stay, they can't swing or turn around.
Just choking that.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Okay. Then I'm going to put in my marabou. I don't even know the differences very well, but these are just normal marabou that we've got. And normally you get another one that's even smaller than this. It's called blood shorts. So with blood shorts, the nice thing about blood shorts is if you can just take the whole plume like this, you pin it and then you tie it in. So I think these are blood shorts. But and the other way that you can do it is for marabou tails. You take your marabou feather, then you start at the place where you find the tips are normally very thin. You don't want them. You want the kind of the plush, the bottom section where you've got plush marabou. So you start at a certain section where you want, and then you just roll it. You take your fingers and you roll the fibers down, and as it rolls, it tears. So then you've torn an even section of tail. So there's your tail. I like to tie quite thick tails. But before we get to the tail, sorry, I forgot a step. We're tying the crystal chenille. It's 6 strands. Make sure it's 6. 2, 4. Take one out. Okay, so 6 strands of crystal chenille. Then I lay it down. I've got to tie it in at about the same length as the hackle tail. Okay. Then I take my marabou. Now with marabou, if you tie in a tail, normally, if it all depends on the type of pattern that you tie. For instance, if you're going to be spinning deer, you don't want to put this all the way to the front. Then you'll tie it at the back like this. But normally if you do tie woolly buggers or any other patterns where you have a tail of marabou, when you do that, unless the tail, I like to tie quite thick tails. If you tie quite thin ones, probably you can do it this way. Otherwise, what happens is this creates an unnecessary bump at the back, which you have to now try and compensate for all the time while you're tying. So you just bring the marabou forward. I normally like to wet it, put it in behind the eyes there, almost to behind the eyes, and just tie a full marabou body. See, I never measured my tail to see how long my tail should be for the pattern. And the reason I do that is there's no need for that, because you can tie a pattern. I don't like these little thin tips. I like to have quite a bushy tails. I mean, everybody's different. How you tie your tail tonight, just because I like bushy tails doesn't mean that you have to tie bushy tails. If you want a thinner tail, I won't judge you on it. You can tie a thinner tail the way you like to tie your marabou tails. I'm going to spray that out a bit. So then I just take my fingers and I just break the marabou. Never cut marabou. Always break it with your fingers. Otherwise it leaves too much of a sharp edge. An unnatural looking edge. And I just want to cut a few of these things uneven. There we go. So there's your tail. So I've done quite a bushy tail. Now I bring the leftover strands of the crystal flash, I bring back. I put 3 on each side. Because you had your 6 strands, so you put 3 on each side.
So 6 on the bottom, 3 on each side?
Yeah, 6 on the bottom, 3 on each side should come up to the top now. It's a quick way of splitting them. Okay, so there's my tail and the chenille is agter and the crystal flash in. Now with the, I've stopped the tail above the hook barb, just a little bit in front of it, so right about the hook barb. When you tie other patterns where you tie with marabou tails, say for instance aggravators, even woolly buggers, some guys put a little deer underneath here, or you can put a thick clump of crystal flash, just a short little bunch there. Or some antron yarn is a hot spot, just to prevent the marabou tail from wrapping in the hook cape. But that's all. You can use those as an effect. And the other thing that you can do is you can take your thread and you can just turn it around the marabou tail like this. And that way you cock up the marabou tail almost like this. And so by doing that, your marabou tail is much less unlikely to wrap around the hook bend. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that with this one. But if you want to do it, then you can. Oops, got all this stuff. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to do the hen hackle body. You just use normal. We've got black hen. What they use for their one is you get a hen hackle that's a variegated hen with black body, which also looks very nice. The colors that they normally do is black. Okay, black you don't do variegated, and they do brown, tan, and olive. But we just sorry. Okay. So now we're going to take our hen hackle and we're just going to strip off the flue at the bottom to where the stem is becoming a little bit thinner and more manageable. Because if the stem is too thick, it's difficult to wrap around the hook. Now what I'm going to do is you can tie them in any which way you want, because it's a messy pattern. So even if you tie it in where the barbs are actually facing forward, doesn't really matter. Or you can tie it in like this. What I normally do is because it's the first one at the back and I wanted a little bit of a taper towards the tail, I tie it in by the tip, but only the first one. So I'm going to tie it in by the tip, so that I have a slight taper going towards the back of the fly, the tail of the fly. And the nice thing about this pattern is you can create a lot of mess on the body, and it will all get hidden by all this hackle. Oops. So as you can see, it doesn't look too great, a bit messy. It doesn't matter. Okay, now we go for the next one. Also, if you want the body denser, you can do 2 hackles at a time. I'm just going to do 1 at a time, so it's fine. And now I tie in with the by the bottom of the feather, so I have thicker, longer barbs going forward. A great help here would be a hackle plier. Something that I don't have. It's okay, just waste feather.
So this is much like a barbel fly.
Yeah, it's almost like a half chicken.
Yeah.
There you go.
A bucket half chicken.
Yeah, the half chicken's quite dense as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. The guys were using bushy flies, and then they got more brown trout.
Where
In Larkin fly.
in Larkins. Oh, browns come out.
But they found that out very late in the competition, so the end result is we tend to fish delicate for trout, and they eat all sizes of things.
You'd be better off using the saddle hackle, which is quite long.
Yeah, the thing is, the hen is much softer. The saddle is a bit too stiff. Then you have like something that's almost like a. So when the fly moves through the water, the fibers fold back. So there's a lot more movement. Yeah. Like I say, a hackle plier is going to make a huge difference. You're going to do it much faster than I do. No, don't worry, guys. We can manage. We're almost there.
Last one by the tip as well.
Yeah, I did the last one by the tip. If you, like I say, you can do them by the tip or by the front. It doesn't really matter. You just want, because as you can see, this body looks really, it's just fibers sticking out in all directions. That you just,
You would leave the fluke?
yeah, you can leave the flue as well. Yeah. So with their patterns, this one hasn't got such nice flue. This hen, but if it had, I would leave some of the marabou fluff at the bottom. So in between these longer feather fibers, you'll have the marabou. Just gives it a bit more movement. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to we've got this hackle here. I don't think this is hen. I think this is saddle. But because you don't have hen, we're not going to use this stiff little parts in the front here for the. I just wanted to create a little collar here. So I'm going to strip the feather so that there's a little bit of the marabou at the bottom, and the softer flue I'm going to use just for like 1 or 2 turns up the front as a accent collar on the fly.
Behind the eyes.
This is the last one that goes in behind the eyes. So by using the marabou part of the feather, we will get a lot more movement out of the out of the fly. Just want to tap it a little bit like that. Okay. Alright, looks much better on my side than on your side, but it's always like that. The side you're facing. Okay. So, so that's the body. Then we're going to put in the silly legs that they've put in. So, silicone legs aren't really necessary just for like creature stuff like dragons or whatever. A lot of baitfish imitations, even zonkers nowadays, gets tied with strands of silly legs in them. It just creates extra movement. So what you want is you want 3 of these silly legs, and these are very nice silly legs. New ones that Gavin just showed me that Mavungana's got. Very nice barred, black and chartreuse. Very cool stuff. It's called grizzly flutter. Alright, so you tie your 3 legs in front of, oops, daisy, in front of the eyes. Okay, then you take your first set of legs and you just pull them underneath the eye. And then I'm going to tie them in on this side. Then you take your second, the other 3 legs, and you pull them over the eyes on your side. So the one under, one over. And you tie them in behind the eye. Okay. There's your legs.
So you just do it over and under, just so
Yeah.
it sit better.
This is a very cool way of putting your legs out. This is much better. And if you tie them tight, I mean, now they hang a little bit back, but if you want your rubber legs, for instance, to stand, like I'm going to drop those ones at the back as well. If you want rubber legs to stand a bit prouder, the harder you pull them, like if I pull them really hard now, and I pull my thread in really hard. Check, now they're sitting a little bit more at the 90, coming more out at a more 90-degree angle. So the harder you, the thread bites into it, and the harder you pull on them, the more they come out at the 90-degree angle. And then the body is just dubbing. In a synthetic, it's got a bit of shine to it.
Okay, that's synthetic.
They've got, say, this is SLF, but any synthetic would be fine. Or if, yeah, I think synthetic would be better than just a normal natural. Everything's basically synthetic these days. It's harder to get. You actually have to go look for natural. You want spiky hairs here or something like that. Okay, so make sure your legs are on the side. So I just created a little thing at the back, and then I'm just gonna tap around the eyes. Now, I always, because I do the pop roach so often, if you dub, especially with big eyes, instead of going figure of 8 on all your wraps to cover the head, I sometimes just go around the eye itself. I'll show you quickly how I do it. So you just go around the eye instead of going figure of 8. And then maybe the next wrap you do a figure of 8. Then I go around the eye on this side. It just builds up. It builds up a nice broad little. So your head goes sideways again instead of just going up and down, getting fatter with a normal figure of 8. The reason they put the eyes on is that they feel that if you fishing for trout, okay, look, these are streamers in rivers. Eyes are always a good option. And because you're actually appealing to the predatory instinct of a fish, so that's why they like to have the actual eyes, not just dumbbells. They want the actual eyeballs on the thing. This probably takes as long as tying the whole fly. Just doing the head. But like I said, for stillwater fishing, you can also do just let's see what the bottom looks like here. And then you just go in front, and then we're just going to tie off. Put a bit of tubbing there. Okay. Okay, then you just do. I read in Klaus Ma's book recently on fly tying. He says, yeah, you don't have to super glue or put head cement on your heads. 2 whip finishes, and then you don't need it. That's what he says. I don't really believe it. I've tried it on a few flies. I haven't fallen apart yet, but the verdict's still out for me on that one. And then the legs. I would cut them. It's all up to your personal preference. I like legs overly long because that's why they're there. Otherwise, they don't move that much. So I'll cut them. The length I'll do them is halfway, the tail, halfway between the oh gosh, I cut half my tail off. Halfway between the hook bend and the end of the tail. Okay. So then I'll cut them there. So they're not too long and not too short. The thing, I'd rather leave my legs on all my rubber legs on all the patterns that I fish. I'd rather leave it too long. Because when you're on the water, the only thing that's going to, while they could be too long, is if they start filing in the hook gape. And if they're filing in the hook gape, then you can just always cut them shorter when you're on the water. It's not a problem. But you can never add to them. And that's a pattern. Okay, guys. Just squash it out a bit. Okay. There you go.
Okay, folks. Thank you.